let me put up the screen, title screen. Yeah, okay, here we go. Ryan's telling me to get off the music and start talking to you guys instead of just typing away. He's probably right. Probably should do that. We don't have a clock today. We don't have a clock because we are actually in 4K. So for those of you who are watching, well, anybody who's listening to this is watching live. Oh boy. Try watching 4K if you can. If your system will handle it, if you've got the bandwidth, if you have a 4K screen, obviously if you're on a Retina, even if you're on a Retina display that's not full 4K, well, although your 15-inch laptop would be. If you're on a 15-inch Retina, it would be. Whatever. Try and do 4K. See if you can do it. It's. I'm curious what you guys think. We're not going to stay here, I don't think. I've switched the system. The switcher's all set up for 4K now for another project, for that Linda project, which is still not done. We don't talk about that. But I need everything in 4K. But I've run into some really interesting challenges. So, for example, all right, so here, let's just step back, look at the whole picture. So everything, as you know, for at least regular viewers know, all of my switching, all the cameras, the computers, the iPad, everything gets fed into my ATEM 2ME, the Blackmagic ATEM 2ME. That's my hardware switcher that does all the camera angle switching and compositing and everything else. That is a fully 4K capable switcher. It's awesome. I have 4 cameras going in, 2 Blackmagic cameras, one we're not using right now, the one you're looking at me on here, and then I have 2 close-up cameras that are, let's see, the hands close. Well, I'm going to need to readjust that, actually. Let me do that right now while we're setting up for the show. That will do for now. I might change that later. So I've got that one, and then I've got an overhead. Those are usually GH4s. For whatever reason, I could not get the GH4s to sync with the ATEM at 4K 30p. So I've had to put the GH5s in here, which work fine, but I can't leave my GH5s here. I need those for production. So that's part of the problem. And then getting any computer surface to sync over is a pain. So for example, let me close this. Here's my desktop at 4K. Look, there's a menu bar up here. Can you see it? Can you see it? I've made the mouse super big, but yeah. So that in itself is a massive challenge. So that means I can't directly sync this at 4K because no one will be able to see the screen. So that means I have to take it at 1080p and scale it. A scaler and frame rate converter combo unit costs $1,700 from Blackmagic, and that's the cheapest thing you can find. Blackmagic now has a new device that will do the scaling that's only $500, but it doesn't do the frame rate conversion as well. And as, again, regular viewers may know, when you're using the Blackmagic ATEM switcher, everything has to go in at the exact same frame rate. So you have to choose a frame rate for your cameras or your devices. Everything has to be the same. So it could be 24.00 frames per second, 2398, it can be 2997, it can be a variety of things. You have a lot of choices. But you have to pick one, and everything has to match that or it doesn't show up. And so right now, what you're looking at is 4K 29.97 frames per second. Great, all the cameras do that. That's fantastic. Your computer, however, does not. The computer syncs at 30 hertz, which is the same as 30.00 frames per second, not 2997. Very small offset, but it doesn't match. The only reason you're able to see my Mac right now if I do this is because it is plugged into the lone HDMI port on the ATEM, which for whatever reason, the HDMI port is, you have a little bit of wiggle room. So 29.9 or 30 will sync with 29.97. Once you go into SDI, though, it has to be exact, and there's only one HDMI port on the ATEM. So that means that I have to have a frame rate converter and a scaler to plug this into anything other than the HDMI port. So okay, so just say I just use the HDMI port for that one thing, that's fine. So that's only a $500 scaler. But then there's the iPad, and it would have to go through that same scaler and frame rate converter because it outputs 1080p 5994, and that's all that it outputs. You can't change that. So that's what it spits out. So that has to get frame rate converted to 2997 and scaled to 4K, which I haven't even tested yet to see how it would look. Now, I did come up with an idea, and I bought some hardware, but I'm probably going to return it. I will try it, though, before I ship it back. I bought an Apple TV 4K because, in theory, the Apple TV 4K, it's outputting 4K, but it's going to be mirroring wirelessly, obviously, from the iPad, and it shouldn't matter what it, right? There's no frame rate mismatch. There's nothing. It just mirrors up there and it spits out 4K, whatever it syncs to. So if I can get it to sync to the ATEM, then that should work. And in theory, you could use that for everything, right? I could buy 3 of those setups, and I could do that from the iPad. I could do it from this Mac, and there's another Mac, the one that has my chat system on it, which I need to be able to put up on screen as well. And in theory, I could do that too. if it worked. But even there, the Apple TV is what, $200, and then you need a HDMI to SDI scale converter, which is another $150. So it's still $350 per device. And then at that point, it's wireless, so that's prone to all the issues that wireless things are prone to, including the fact that it is not a hardline signal. We may get dropouts and pixels. Who knows? It could be anything. So I'm going to try it because I bought the hardware, but I really don't think I'm going to keep it. So all of that adds up to needing to spend a lot more money to go 4K, and I just don't know that it's worth it. Especially like right now, I want to see, let's get a quick, I wish I could do polls. Can I do a live poll? Can we do that on Twitter? I mean, not Twitter, on, I thought we could do polls in here at some point. Yeah, Ryan, see if you can figure out how to do a poll in here. I thought we did them at some point, but I'm curious. Well, you know what, actually, Ryan, scratch it. It doesn't matter. We can just look at the stats. I want to see how many people are actually watching this in 4K, right? We will start the show. Okay, Ryan can do a poll. Excellent. Ryan's going to build a poll. HD, let's go 4K, 1080p, and less than 1080p. Those are the poll questions that are going to come up here. Ryan's building that. I'm talking to Ryan. So I don't know that it's worth it. And I see, okay, my new Russian friend here. I can't put your name on the screen here, unfortunately, because that part of the screen isn't up. But I don't know what to call you because I don't read Cyrillic. But my new Russian friend is saying, which is very important, content is more important than 4K. Absolutely 100%. Do not disagree in the slightest. And streaming to 4K wouldn't be, I don't mind so much not being able to stream to 4K. I would love to be able to have my re-upload be in 4K, but that would require a whole other level of capture and editing afterwards, which I'm just not prepared to do. Question is what they're watching, what they prefer. Question what they prefer. Yeah, just put prefer. Yeah, I'm talking to Ryan. Sorry, I know you can't, unless he's turned himself on, you can't hear him. Anyway, so let me just quickly. We will start the show, honestly. Yeah, need upscaler for the iPad. The Russian. I'm going to call you the Russian. Is saying, Rochak saying, hi, hello. Content's more important. No, Alex. Oh, there we go. Hello, Alex. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, he's saying don't waste the money for 4K. Yeah, it's, okay. You may need to refresh your screens. For those of you watching live, refresh the chat room, and you should see the poll. Where's the poll going to show up? Is it in the chat or is it in the video? Oh, it's in the cards. Okay, so click up here. There should be a chat up here. A poll. I'll give you a minute. 5 Passenger says, YouTube upload is worthless at this point. What do you mean by that? Why would you say YouTube upload is worthless? I'm very curious to know what you mean. I gotta figure out where to put this so I don't knock it over. 5 Passengers, please clarify. We will start the show, promise. We're not, this isn't the show yet. This is an interesting discussion. Oh, right, and Ryan has to leave at 10. Oh, shoot. Ryan has to leave at 10. Okay. All right, we'll get on with the show here. Do the poll. And, Ryan, we're not recording audio because you've got the memory stick in there. See, look at that. Let's do that. Let's get that audio recording, and then we'll start the show. Let's see here. I'm going to see if I can pull up the poll. Ryan's going to have to share with the results with me. I don't even know how to pull that up on my side. Anyway, we're going to have the memory stick start recording the show, and then we're going to start recording the show and broadcasting the show.
I believe all you have to do is click on it, do your own choice, and you'll see the results.
Oh, yeah, but okay. Well, okay, let's get this in here. And 5 Passengers say, I don't understand what you mean it's worthless. Okay, you keep saying it's worthless in 4K, but what do you mean? Because nobody watches it? I disagree with that completely. Anybody with a 4K TV or the bandwidth to support it's going to watch it 4K. It's whether they care, whether it's a benefit at all. I don't know why you say it's worthless, though. That's a bit strong, I think. All right, Ryan, go ahead and start recording over there. I am going to start recording here. Good. And make sure you're recording on the Pearl, please. And let's get this box up here because this is what we're talking about today. Let's get this thing in place. And that's it. Shall we have a show? Let's have a show. Oh, Alex saying you don't see where the pool is. The poll is, if you click up here on the little eye that's sticking up in the corner, that should reveal it. If it doesn't, just refresh the view and that'll show it. Refresh the stream and that'll show it up there. Car Galaxy Studios, greetings. Okay, let's actually start the show before people start leaving because I'm not talking about the Pearl. Hey, here we go. I have this set up. I do. Oops, let me get the right page up there. I had it up. There we go. On today's show, we're going to be unboxing the brand new Epiphan Pearl Mini. Greetings and salutations. Welcome to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment, the first live 3 times a week show here at youtube.com/PhotoJoseph, talking about photo, video, and live streaming tech. And the live streaming is not an everyday thing, but every once in a while we do because this show is live. It is live. If you're watching live, that means you're watching live and you can participate in the chat, which I cannot throw up on screen right now because we are streaming in 4K and it's a little bit of an odd setup and I just can't. But if you are new to this channel, new to the show, make sure you hit that subscribe, hit that thumbs up, hit that, hit the bell, get notified, all that good stuff, so you know when we go live. But we normally go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific, which is what this is today. Right now, it's Wednesday. So we are talking about the brand new Epiphan Pearl Mini. We're going to do a little unboxing here. We're going to see what's in the setup. And then over the next few weeks, I'm going to have this for a little while. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to start, I'm going to do a full demo of this. I'm going to show you all the features of it. And we're going to actually start streaming the show from it. So this will be a little bit of a change up of how we normally do things because this product is going to get a really extensive look throughout the course of the show. By the way, if you are watching live, if you have any questions, make sure when you put them up in the chat, you put PhotoJoseph in front of them. I see them right on my screen. I can't show you that right now, but just believe me, I do. And we will do a Q&A after the show. We'll wrap this thing up with the Q&A, so if you have any questions you want to ask, we'll hit those then. Anyway, so the Epiphan Pearl Mini is the little brother to the Pearl 2. The Pearl 2 is actually what I'm using right now to stream. That's why we're able to stream in 4K. So those of you who are watching in 4K, who have the bandwidth and the screen to see it, and are going, whoa, look at the quality of that thing, it's amazing. That's because it is a hardware encoder. When you look at your live streaming encoders, you have hardware and you have software. Software would be things like Wirecast or OBS, which is good, but hardware is better. Dedicated hardware, in my experience, will always give you a better quality stream. The Pearl 2 is a very high-end device. It's an $8,000 piece of hardware. It's capable of streaming in 4K, and it has multiple inputs, scalers built into it, frame rate converters built into it, recorders built into it. It has like everything that you would need in something that's the size of maybe 2 or 3 laptops stacked on top of each other. We've talked about that quite a bit in the past. I'll link to a playlist up here so you can, if you want to explore that, click on this. You'll see a bunch of different videos that we've talked about it in the past. So that was the high end of what Epiphan has, is the high end of what Epiphan has. On the lower end, they have a little tiny box called the X2. This is a $300 box. I think that's right. Close enough. $300 box that is a dedicated hardware streamer. It has one input, actually technically has 2 inputs, but it's got a USB input for like a webcam. But one real input, one real HDMI input. It's dedicated for streaming to Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, all the usual players. And being that it's a smaller, obviously lower cost device, it's a hardware streamer, but it's not as good as what you'd get out of the Pearl. Certainly, it's not the same quality. But it's great because you have a little tiny piece of hardware, you plug it in and you're on the air, and away you go. But again, it's that one input. This sits in between the two. So price-wise, let's just start with that. Price-wise, it's at $3,500. So it is less than half of the Pearl 2, clearly significantly more than the X2, but this is a dedicated, as you can see in the description, all-in-one video production system. So what does that mean? What that means is that with this hardware, this should be everything you need to do your switching, your recording, and obviously your streaming. You can put titles, you can put graphics, you can bring in multiple sources, you can bring in multiple sources of different mixed resolutions and stream them out, do all of that. It does it in HD. This is not a 4K device. If you want 4K, that's the Pearl 2. But as for those of you who are watching live, we're around for the pre-show, we are doing 4K now, and doing 4K does have its limitations. So depends on what you need, of course, but the Pearl Mini is going to be what the vast majority of people out there who are doing high-end, high-quality streaming are going to want to get their hands on. If you want something that handles everything and you want to stream in HD, something tells me this is going to be the box. Now, in full disclosure, Epiphan is a client of mine. They have hired me to do projects in the past. I am not being paid to do this. They have shipped this out to me on loan so that I can do an unboxing and do a review, and it will likely go back to them, although the Pearl 2, they may ask for the Pearl 2 back. I'm not quite sure. But they are good friends. I love the company. I love their products. I am not being paid for this review, but I am pretty sure this is going to be a pretty positive review because I've been looking forward to this hardware for a long time. This thing's pretty awesome. Okay, let's get started, shall we? So let's see what's in the box. Let's do a little overhead view because we can do that. Get my switcher out of the way here, and let's see what's in here. Waiting for the waiting for that box to fall off the bottom. Come on, here we go. Here we go. It's almost there, and it's almost okay. Really, come on, we're getting there. There it goes. Pop, and it's off. So opens straight up to a beautiful little piece of hardware. You can see the size of this. This is nice and small. It is about the size of a laptop. I can't, let's see here, let me get my iPad. This is a regular size iPad for size comparison. So, oh, actually, wow, that's surprising. It's the size of the iPad. This is the Pro, whatever this size is. What, 11? No, what is this? 11 inch? I think that's right. So it's that size. It is obviously thicker, so you can see there, it's a bit thicker than that. But that's not huge. That is a really nicely small device. It's not the kind of thing you're just going to throw on your shoulder bag and go, but if you are going to be traveling and you want to do some live streaming on the road, this is clearly much more portable than the Pearl 2 or any other big solution out there. In fact, with that said, I don't know if I've told you guys this yet. On Friday, I'm not going to have a show Friday because I'm flying to Detroit. For anybody that's in the Detroit area, there is an event at the zoo. I think it's Westwood Camera, I think that's right, is doing an event at the Detroit Zoo. I will be there Saturday and Sunday and doing a thing for Panasonic. So if you're in the area, come to the zoo. It's going to be awesome. But anyway, so I'm going to be in Detroit. I'm planning on taking this with me and trying to do a live show from the hotel or something. Now, those always are limited based off of what kind of bandwidth I get out of the hotel, so we'll see if it even works. But I am planning on bringing this with me so I can try. Anyway, so back to this thing. So you see the size? It's pretty small. This is before we start looking at this. Let's see if there's anything else in the box we want to look at. There is, what else is in here? Let's go back to that top-down view. You've got your power cords. Oh, that's the other part of the power cord. Okay, so you have a power brick. So you do have, it's a pretty good sized power supply. So you have to have this power supply. That is not built into the device. You're going to be carrying these two things with you. And then let's see if you get anything else in the box. Doesn't look like it. Nope, no HDMI cables, nothing else. So pretty straightforward. You have the product and the power supply, and that is all there is to it. Okay, let's get this out of the way. And let's start looking at the product itself. Let me get the close-up camera. That's actually pretty good right there. I think that'll allow you to see what's going on. And here we go. We can stand a little bit closer than that, can't we? Okay, so these are your inputs. Let's just go left to right or right to left or whatever. Power, obviously, power input, because you've got two USB inputs. That would allow you to bring in things like a webcam. So if you have USB-based cameras, you can plug those in there. Most people who are doing a professional stream are probably not going to want that, but it's nice to have. I've used them a couple times on the Big Pearl as well. It's just convenient. You've got a webcam laying around, you want an extra camera source, plug it in there. Away you go, pretty straightforward. Next to that, you have an HDMI out. Now that is for monitoring. So if you want to have your show up on a separate screen so that you can see what's going on a bigger screen than just seeing it on this little screen here, which incidentally, this screen here shows you everything you need, including the show itself, which is pretty awesome. Even the Pearl 2 has a much smaller, about the quarter of this size screen. So this right there is giving you a better experience. We'll talk more about the screen in a moment here. And anyway, so that HDMI out is so that you can plug it into a bigger TV and watch the output there as well. Now that I've moved it, let me refocus there. Okay, let's go back into it. You've got then next to that an Ethernet port. So if you are actually, you know what, this probably is only hardline Ethernet. This probably does not have Wi-Fi built into it. That is something I will have to check, but it probably doesn't. So you probably need a hardline Ethernet line in. That is an SDI. Let's see, what is that? SDI, it doesn't say in or out. That's interesting. We're going to assume that is SDI in. Yeah, it must be. It's got to be the inputs right there. So an SDI input, and then two HDMI inputs, so HDMI A and B. So you can bring in two HDMI sources, an SDI source, and then two USB sources. Part of this, because this is literally an unboxing, I have not played with this thing yet. I'm kind of assuming, I wish they said in and out on all of them, be a little bit more clear of what they are. But based off of the previous hardware, that's what I'm assuming those are inputs, all inputs there. That makes sense, since the only output so far says actually out on it. So yeah, we're going to assume everything else is an input since it doesn't say it. Okay, so two USB ins, HDMI out, Ethernet, SDI, and then two HDMI inputs. And then you have your audio inputs. You have an analog audio input. I'm not sure what you'd use this for beyond the way I'm actually using it on my device is to bring an iPod into here so I can play background music, so you got that. And then your XLR ins. So you could either connect, if you had two lav mics on XLR inputs, with XLR connections on them, you could plug those in and then have two people on sound. Any more than that, and you would want to have a dedicated audio device, audio mixer, audio console that would allow you to bring in as many audio sources as you need, mix and match them, and feed that in as a stereo feed into that, which is really what that's designed for. But in a pinch, or if you just want to do something quick and easy, you could plug a lav directly into that, which is great as well. Now, I know from working with the Pearl, the full-size Pearl, that you do have audio latency shifting in there. So if your audio and video are out of sync, you can shift them, which is fantastic. That's something I can't even do on my Blackmagic hardware. So that would allow you to bring your signals all into sync manually if you needed to do that, which is important because your audio is going to come in real time. Your video is going to come in over HDMI, a couple frames delayed. Any video coming on an SDI will be real time. So you need to compensate for that. And that hardware or that capability is built into this. Okay, let's look at the front. The front of this device. Let's see, again, we're going to focus on that. And this has, let's see, a power button or power lights. These are lights. Power light, streaming light to show me that we're actually streaming, recording, because it does have recording built into it. I have no idea what those are. Interesting. Maybe reset buttons? I don't know. Let's slide this over. And this is exciting. You have a SD card slot built into it. So that is for recording your show. Also, USB port here, if I remember correctly, this is so that you can plug in either a hard drive or a thumb drive to that to record to it. I think that's what that is. We will confirm that later. And then a headphone port, which would be for monitoring your live show. So there you go. So that is everything there. And then we've got this beautiful thing on the top here. So this is our control surface. It is not just a screen for viewing. It is a touch screen. This will allow you to do all of your switching by touching on here. So for those of you who've watched the show before, you know that what I'm doing on my show here, this iPad is controlling my ATEM switcher. Just stepping way back for a second for those who aren't super familiar with my setup, all of the switching here is going through a Blackmagic ATEM switcher. That is a big, expensive piece of hardware for doing all the switching, the picture-in-pictures, overlays, all of that. It is then feeding into the Pearl 2 for encoding. With that in mind, I am very much replicating what I need. The Pearl 2, I don't own. The Blackmagic device, I do. I bought that long before the Pearl 2 was in existence. If I was to start my entire setup over today, I probably could. I've never actually sat down and mapped it. I probably could do everything that I'm doing through the Pearl 2 and save myself a lot of hassle and money, frankly, because even though the ATEM is cheaper, it is only one piece of the puzzle, whereas the Pearl 2 does everything, which again is just a big brother to the little guy here. Anyway, the way that I'm doing it right now is I am going through my ATEM switcher. So that means that what you're looking at here is my control surface, my control interface for the ATEM. I'm not actually streaming from the iPad. This is simply a remote control allowing me to switch camera angles. This type of control is what we'll have on here, except that instead of little colored chiclet buttons, which you have to remember or actually read them whenever you tap it, here you're going to see a preview of your setup. So if you've got a picture-in-picture, a two side-by-side, text overlay, whatever, I'll be able to see those and switch to them here, which I gotta say is pretty cool. And I am really, really interested and excited to play with this thing, especially as a portable solution, to be able to be in a hotel or somewhere streaming from this, even if I'm just bringing in, say, a computer and maybe two cameras, which is, you're not going to go crazy big on the road. But if I have a computer and two cameras or just a couple of cameras to be able to switch between them on here, pretty slick. So there you go. It has a very solid feel. This is all metal on there. Very, very nice. A very good, hard, solid metal on here. It's got a kind of a cool look to it. I like that. I dig it. Nice little venting on the side there. I am going to assume that it runs very, very quiet. Maybe that's even fan. Oh, no, there is a fan in there. I can see it. But let's assume that it runs very quiet, hence the big, huge vent running through here because you don't want any extra noise when you're streaming. And yeah, it feels like it's a real hard, solid, robust piece of gear. So there you go. That, my friends, is the Pearl Mini. That is everything that I can tell you about it today. From here on out, we're going to have to start actually using it, streaming it with it, playing with it, and see what we can do. So again, I will try to go live from Detroit this weekend. That is 100% bandwidth dependent. We'll see what I can get. Also interesting that because it is Ethernet in, and I don't believe it has Wi-Fi built into it, if I recall, that means I'm going to have to figure out how to get a hardline Ethernet into there, which could be its own challenge in a hotel. So we'll see what I can do. And either way, even if I can't go live from it over the weekend, we will start streaming from this. We're going to still go through my Blackmagic switcher, but then we'll be using this to encode the 1080p stream. So for those of you who have seen my literally hundreds of shows before this that were streamed in 1080p, you'll be able to compare side by side to go back to those old shows, compare how that live stream looked compared to this one, and I am assuming there will be no difference. I do believe that it is the same hardware encoder in this that is in the Pearl, except that this one's not 4K capable. But it should have the same capability as far as HD streaming as the Pearl 2 has. And then after I've used it for a little bit, put it in production, then I'll do a full-on detailed demo instructional video on exactly how this whole thing works. We'll go through the inputs again, and I'll show you how to set it up in software. It's a web-based interface, at least from the what the Pearl 2 was, web-based interface, but because of this big screen on here, I think we're going to be able to do a lot more in here without having to go into a computer to handle it. So that, my friends, is everything I wanted to show you on that. We're going to jump over to the Q&A now, so if you've got any Qs, get them ready, get them into the chat room here, and I'll do my best to answer them. We'll be right back. Welcome back to PhotoJoseph Photo Moment, the Q&A section. We were talking about the brand new Pearl Mini from Epiphan Video. We just did an unboxing of this. If you somehow managed to watch this and not that, click up here. You'll see the link to that. This is an impressive looking piece of hardware. I got a preview of this at NAB earlier this year, and this is the first time I've had my hands on it. Literally, we just unboxed. I have not turned it on. It still has the cellophane wrapper on it. But I'm going to do my best to answer any questions that may be coming up right now in the live chat room, which normally I could bring the chat up on screen. I can't right now because we're streaming in 4K. I'm not, it's a long story. Don't worry about it, but I can't put the chat up on screen right now. We were, however, before this just started, talking about the benefits of going 4K, whether people in the audience actually want to see stuff in live 4K. Ryan, tell me what the results of the poll were, please. And I'm just curious to hear how many people actually want to see a live 4K stream. Let's see here. Burns, welcome. Ryan's saying he'd have to vote for me. Just give me the results. Just tell me to, okay. He's talking way too much in my ear. 100% 1080. 100% of you said just go 1080. That is very interesting. That is very telling. Very interesting. Okay, well, good to know. Thank you. Let's see what are going on in the questions here. Car Galaxy Studios, this really is a studio without using a computer then. Interesting concept. Yes, that is exactly what this is. You do not need a computer. And I was saying at the end of the last show that you have a web-based interface for this. So for doing all of your setup, all your encoding settings and everything else, a lot of that I think you can do on this big, huge touch screen here, but because it's a web-based thing, you could just do it on your iPad, anything that can connect to a URL. So as long as you're on the same network, it gives you a local IP, you just punch that in and away it goes, and that's how we configure the Pearl 2. So it's I don't want to say it's an easy setup. There's a lot in there to go through, but once you understand everything, it's not a big deal. It's not the kind of thing you go into every day, and we almost never log into it anymore. Now that the device is set up, we just use the control surface here to touch and set up everything up on there. So yeah, you don't need a computer to do the vast majority of it, and you certainly don't need it during the actual production because you have the touch all on here. Burns is saying that 4K is crispy. 4K is definitely crispy. You've been watching MKBHD, haven't you? MKBHD likes to talk about how crispy the video is. 4K is great. I love 4K, but you know, sometimes it's just not necessary. 5 Passengers is saying, I know friends shooting 8K on Red for YouTube geared to mobile viewers. To me, that is overkill. Are you talking about MKBHD as well? Yeah, he shoots, Marquez shoots everything on Red, what is he, Red Dragons, Red Epics? They're insane cameras. And, you know, clearly you get a real cinematic quality out of that, shallow depth of field, that it was such a big sensor. I mean, it's a beautiful setup. He does it because he can, largely. He talks sometimes about doing it for future-proofing, but I don't really buy that because a year from now, no one's going to want to watch a review on today's latest Samsung phone. Who cares if it was shot in 8K? A year from now, even if everything was 8K a year from now, no one's going to go back and watch it. So I don't quite buy that as a value point, at least not for tech review videos. But, you know, hey, he's got an incredible setup. His stuff always looks absolutely top. I mean, his videos look pretty much the best out there as far as tech reviews go, and he is shooting all on Red. What are you going to do? Hey, when you got that kind of money to put into it, go, my brother. That is awesome. Let's see here. Burns is excited to see what this little guy can do. So am I. So am I. It's impressive. It's an impressive size. If you missed the beginning of the thing, when I did this, that's really surprised me. It is the size of my iPad. This isn't the mini. This is the regular size iPad. So it is that. Obviously, it's not as thin, obviously, but it is the physical size of the iPad, which width and height, which really, that's impressive. Burns says there's really no benefit to 4K for what you're doing here. If you had to code or anything with a lot of text, I can see 4K being beneficial at this time anyway. Well, if I have to do stuff with text, okay, look at this. Here's my screen at 4K. The only reason that you can actually read all this is because I have scaled it up to like 1,000,000%. Look at the top. There's the URL bar. See it up there? See it? So if I hit Command 0 and I bring this back to normal size, there's a normal size web page. If I go to my desktop, look at these little menus. I mean, can you imagine me trying to do a demo like this? It'd be impossible. So I can zoom in, but then it gets all chunky and zoom way back out, and there we go. So, clearly going 4K from the screen is not ideal, so that would have to be scaled up anyway. So there you go. Mark says, overpriced for 3 inputs. He says you can put an ATEM with all needed encoder and touchscreen with preview for less. Okay, so Mark, I'm very well familiar with the ATEMs. The lowest end one, the Television Studio, I think is now 1080p capable. When I first started looking at them, it was only 1080i. Is still what, $1,500 or something like that, $1,000, $1,500 for that. That's going to give you your switching, but then you still need hardware encoding. What hardware encoder out there is going to give you anywhere near the quality of this? That I would love to hear. If you have an answer for me for that, let me know. But I have yet to find a hardware encoder that does this. I own a lot of this stuff, right? I've got the X2, also made by Epiphan, clearly a lower end encoder. It works well, but this is, without a question, this is a better quality encoder. Using a laptop, even if you were to say, okay, I'm going to take a dedicated laptop and put encoding software on there, put OBS or put Wirecast on there, by the time you get a decent laptop and put that on there, you're talking at least, what, a couple of grand? So boom, you've already blown the budget blowing over this. So that's not going to work. The only dedicated hardware encoders I've seen that are like a portable hardware encoder would be something like the ones from Teradek, a VidiU Pro. That's $1,000. It is a decent encoder, but it's not great. I've been using that thing for a couple of years. It's unreliable. It only works half the time that I need it. I wish I could say better things about it, but I've had so many issues with it. It's exceptionally frustrating. I can't rely on that for dedicated hardware encoding, whereas again, not the Pearl Mini, I haven't started using it, but the Pearl 2, flawless 100% of the time. And the better quality, without a question, a better quality. So if you've got a hardware encoder that you know that would fit that budget, so it would have to be at that point, you'd have to be spending, I'd say, less than $2,000, because now you're talking about multiple pieces of hardware, and the additional hardware you're going to need to configure and manage it, then by all means let me know. I would love to hear what you've got in mind. Okay, back into the questions here. Burns Tech, I shoot my golf cart repair videos in 4K 60p. Necessary? Not really. I have a GH5, so why not use it? Well, even if you're shooting, forget about streaming for a second. If you're shooting video for YouTube or whatever, and even if your final delivery is only going to be 1080, I think it's still advantageous. It is advantageous to shoot 4K because you have the ability to punch into the shot, right? If I've got a 4K image, but I only need 1080p, I can do a full 100% scale, a full zoom, doubling the size and not actually be scaling up the pixels. So this is massively advantageous, right? If you've got a wider shot, you just want to get a little bit closer, you can zoom in, no problem. But more importantly, it gives you kind of a multi-camera aspect almost. If I'm talking here and I want to do a punch in, whether I'm just doing it for effect or I want to edit around something I need to cut out of the video, to be able to punch in like that is massively huge. I'm doing a production now where I'm shooting on a 4K camera, this one here, and then I have kind of presets built up that I can drag onto the project on the timeline to do a punch into the face, a super close-up, a medium close-up, a close-up to the table, all these different shot angles from a single camera. Shooting 4K is massively advantageous. And then shooting 4K 60, if you're deleting 1080-30, gives you the ability to not only punch in, but also do a 50% slowdown if you want to have a little slow motion effect and still have frame for frame existing frames for every frame of video that goes out, which is, again, massively, massively huge. So if you're doing recording, shooting 4K 60, this is not even a question for me. Of course you should. And this is partially why MKBHD would do 8K. That gives you even more advantages, more opportunity to punch in or stabilize. There's another great one if you're going to stabilize your footage. But, for your live, maybe not so necessary. Burns, have to agree, hardware encoder software is just not as good. It is not. Car Galaxy, OBS does support CUDA and NVIDIA, so your GPU can be considered hardware encoding. Yeah, find me someone who's doing OBS that doesn't have reliability issues with it. All the software issues, all the software platforms have, they're just not. I have, all the gray on me that you see is because of software encoders. That's it. Matt Diver, have you tried the Matrox encoder? I have not tried the Matrox encoder. I do recall hearing about it. I will need to look into it because I don't recall what the specs are, but I have not tried it. Car Galaxy, Joseph, does that company make a portable streaming unit? I'm curious about remote locations. This is portable streaming unit. If that's what you're talking about, this is very portable. They don't do like a suitcase kind of one. The actual Pearl 2, yeah, the Pearl 2 actually comes with a kind of Pelican style case because it is, it's portable in the fact that I'd say it's probably 2.5-ish times the volume of this. It's a little bit bigger, a little bit taller, 2.5, 3 times the volume of this. But it's, you know, it's as portable as any suitcase is. This is smaller and lighter and therefore more portable. But all you need is power and internet, and off you go. So it's definitely portable. Burns 100% agrees on the GH5 comment. Excellent. Burns also says, I've used my GH5 as a webcam using HDMI and 4K. On YouTube, 4K is meh. On Twitch, 4K is quite noticeably better. Oh, that's interesting. Well, we're on YouTube now. So Burns, if you're able to be streaming this show at 4K right now, please try it and tell me what you think. We are pushing, what I think I set it up for, I think it's pushing out a 13 megabit. It might be 16, either 13 or 16 megabits that I am streaming out right now, which is a lot, but that's what's going out right now. And Burns says, you use your GH5 as a webcam and HDMI with an Epiphan 4K USB adapter. Yeah, that's something else that this company makes. The USB adapter, so you can take HDMI or HDMI or SDI into your Mac over USB 3. It's a little box that does that, and they have a 4K version and a 1080p version. I own at least one of the HD versions. I don't have any of the 4Ks because I don't need them, but yeah, very, very handy. Burns saying OBS and reliability. Are you serious? I have nothing but reliability with OBS and pigs fly. Oh, I see sarcasm. Excellent. Good, Burns. Good. I like sarcasm in the show. Okay, that is that. Ryan has to run out of here like 5 minutes ago. So if he's not there, the whole show falls apart. So I'm going to cut this thing short here. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. We will, again, be doing a lot more with this over the coming weeks. I'm very excited to finally have this in my hands. I know a lot of you have been very excited about getting this. We are linking to this down below. If you want to buy one, please, of course, do use my affiliate links. I would very much greatly appreciate that, bigly appreciate that. And other than that, hey, have yourselves a great week. Friday, no show because I'm going to be in the air. I will try to do a show Saturday and or Sunday from Detroit, using this little box right here. Take care of yourselves, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.